Now starting off with number 10, we have the USS Cyclops. The USS Cyclops was one of the biggest Navy fuel ships. In March 1918, set sail from Brazil to Baltimore through the Bermuda area with around 309 crew aboard. The ship had sent their first and only message ever, with no distress of any kind. All of a sudden, the ship was gone, never to be heard or seen from again. They searched everywhere and found absolutely nothing. The captain of the ship never sent out any help signal, and no one aboard ever responded to any radio calls sent out by nearby boats. You'd think that with a ship that big and that many people aboard, that they would at least find something, but they found absolutely nothing. At number 9, we have Great Isaac Cay Lighthouse. This is actually said to be the only Bermuda Triangle incident to have happened on land. Great Isaac Cay is a small island in the Bahamas and is only accessible by boat. Despite it being 151 feet tall, it's so tiny you can't even see it on Google Earth. The main attraction of the island is the lighthouse, right in the middle of it, which was built in 1859. On August 4th, 1969, the lighthouse was found to be abandoned by its 2 keepers who were never located. There was Hurricane Anna that passed by Great Isaac Island on August 1st and 2nd, but by August 4th it was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So who really knows what happened to the lighthouse keepers? But some do say that they disappeared due to the mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. Here at number 8, we have Piper PA-46 310P Malibu. The pilot of Piper PA-46 Malibu had a flight plan from the US to the Bahamas on April 10, 2007. And it was said that the thunderstorms had severe turbulence was forecasted that day. However, the pilot did not request any weather briefing. A weather briefing is what most pilots ask for when they are about to fly. It basically just shows them what the weather is supposed to be like in that area. There was no request from the pilot to air traffic control for alternate routes to avoid the weather. After many lightning strikes in that area, the plane began a very steep descent. It was very clear that they were flying into a level 6 thunderstorm. Communications were lost and they found no wreckage or people from the plane. Now at number 7, we have Douglas C-54 Skymaster. On January 26, 1950, the Douglas C-54 Skymaster vanished during their flight from Alaska to Montana. The aircraft had 8 crew and 36 passengers aboard. The plane made their first contact 2 hours into their 8-hour flight, with the pilot saying that the flight was going well and they had just passed over Yukon. After that, there was no further contact. An hour after the plane didn't arrive in Montana, after its scheduled time, they sent out a search with 85 planes and 7,000 people searching 350,000 square miles. Many attempts were made to find C-54. However, after sending out 3 planes and all of them reporting mixed radio signals, sighting of survivors, but when looking closer there was nothing, and all of them had either crashed or had something gone wrong and the crew got injured. They eventually stopped the search. Here at number 6 is Ellen Austin. In 1881, the Ellen Austin set sail from Liverpool headed to New York. The ship was transporting people that were immigrating to the US. The ship was at sea for several weeks before the captain decided they were going to take an unplanned detour through the Sargasso Sea, which is very well known for having incredibly crazy weather conditions, causing the ship to go into the Bermuda Triangle. The captain had then spotted another ship inside the Bermuda Triangle, but it was sailing very strangely. The ship seemed abandoned due to its erratic sailing patterns. He sent some of his crew members to investigate, and they found no one on board and with no sign of struggle or violence. So he said they should sail back together. A storm came along later and separated the ships. When the storm passed, the same thing happened. A mysterious ship appeared again, abandoned with no sign of damage. At number 5, we have the SS Vatarna. On November 8, 1888, the SS Vatarna vanished somewhere off the coast of Saurashtra with around 740 aboard the ship. The ship was traveling from Mandi to Bombay. When the incident happened, no one really knows much because the ship disappeared without a trace. No wreckage or bodies were recovered. Here at number 4, we have the USS Porpoise. The USS Porpoise was actually the second ship with this name. The ship spent a long time hunting down slave trading vessels in the 1850s, but was then given to the North Pacific Exploring Expedition. The ship set sail to explore the island of Ladrones, Mariana, and Bonin. After setting sail, that would be the last time anyone ever saw the ship and the 69 crew that were aboard. No sign of debris or any kind of indication that the ship ever even existed at all. Most people usually go with the story of a typhoon, but I think we all know what really happened. Coming in at number 3, Flight 19. Flight 19 was a group of 5 Avenger torpedo bombers that took off from Fort Lauderdale on December 5th, 1945. They had done lots of bombing journeys and expected this one to go as boring as the rest of them have, but to their surprise, it did not. Pilot Charles C. Taylor thought that his compass wasn't working properly and thought that the plane was flying in the complete wrong direction. Some of his crew fought this decision because they didn't think that it was very smart. Taylor then agreed with them and turned the plane back around. However, for reasons unknown, Taylor turned the plane back the other way again. Their transmissions started to become faint and they were going to run out of fuel before they found their way back. Taylor sent out a final message saying that when the plane dropped below 10 liters of fuel, that they were going to jump off for a greater chance of survival. Then transmission ended. The Navy assumed the plane had dropped into the ocean, so they prepared a search and rescue. 2 boats went out to look for them, and after 20 minutes of searching, one of those boats dropped off the radar. Out of all 13 crew, 5 pilots, and the plane itself, nothing was ever found. Here at number 2 is the disappearance of Caribbean Flight 912. On November 3rd, 1978, experienced pilot Irene Rivers was making a solo flight in order to position the plane in St. Thomas to pick up passengers. Not a cloud in the sky, and it was nice and warm out. The control tower radioed to the pilot a flight suggestion in order to avoid a small patch of rain. Rivers thought it was a good idea, so he made the change. He approached the airport in St. Thomas and the plane was cleared for landing. At the same time, another plane was leaving the airport, and when the control tower looked back, he could no longer see the plane's lights, and it was gone from the radar. They executed a search party, but despite their efforts, nothing was found with the plane being only 1 mile away from landing. Now at number 1, we have Mitsubishi MU-2B40. This one is a little more recent than the rest, which is why I personally think it's the scariest. Flight MU-2B40 disappeared on May 15th, 2017. Jennifer Bullman, a CEO of the management company Skylight. She owned a small private plane and wanted to take it from Puerto Rico to South Florida with her 2 sons, with her boyfriend piloting the plane, as he was an experienced pilot. At 2:10 p.m. that day, the plane was only 37 miles east of the Bahamas. The Miami Air Traffic Control could no longer get in touch with the plane and couldn't track it on the radar. It's as if the plane just vanished into thin air. It was reported that there were absolutely no weather issues at all. Some would even say a perfect day. The next day, they began a search for the aircraft. After 30 long hours of searching, the US Coast Guard, who was flying the helicopter, located floating debris in the Atlantic Ocean. They found things like seats from the plane. However, in terms of finding anyone or any human remains, they found nothing.
Number 10, the Ellen Austin. According to legend, a sailing ship, the Ellen Austin, found a derelict vessel and placed a crew to sail the vessel to port. 2 versions of what happened to the vessel are: the vessel was either lost in a storm or was found again without a crew. Lawrence David Couch, author of the Bermuda Triangle mystery Solved, found no mention in 1880 or 1881 newspapers of this alleged incident. The Ellen Austin did exist. A check from Lloyd's of London records proved the existence of Maida, built in 1854, and that in 1880, Maida was renamed Ellen Austin. There are no casualty listings for this vessel, or any vessel at that time. That would suggest a large number of missing men were placed on board a derelict that later disappeared. Although one website includes the alleged derelict vessel incident, it does find that Rupert Gould talked about the legend on radio in the 1930s. Number 9, the USS Proteus. USS Proteus AC-9 lost with all 58 persons on board in heavy seas, having departed St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands with a cargo of bauxite on the 23rd of November. The following month, her sister ship, USS Nereus, was lost with all 61 persons on board, having also departed St. Thomas with a cargo of bauxite on the 10th of December. According to research by Rear Admiral George Van Ders, USN, who was familiar with this type of ship from their service in the USN, the acidic coal cargo would seriously erode the longitudinal support beams, making these aging and poorly constructed colliers extremely vulnerable to breaking up in heavy seas. Number 8. Witchcraft. December 22nd, Miami hotel owner and yachtsman Dan Burrick set out his cabin cruiser Witchcraft with a priest named Patrick Horgan. The ship was taken 1 mile off the Miami coastline so that Burrick and Horgan could view the Christmas lights visible from the shore. That night, Burrick radioed a distress call to the Coast Guard, informing them that the boat's propeller had stuck something underwater, and that the vessel would need to be towed in. The Coast Guard requested that he send up a flare in roughly 20 minutes so that the boat could be more easily located. The official who received the call reportedly later noted that Burrick did not seem too concerned about the Witchcraft, a boat that Burrick had fitted with a special flotation device in its hull. When the Coast Guard arrived at the location from which Burrick called, he, Horgan, and the Witchcraft were nowhere to be found. Over the following days, a search was conducted over hundreds of square miles of ocean, but the boat and its passengers were never found. Number 7. Flight 19. Flight 19 was the designation of a group of 5 General Motors TBM Avenger torpedo bombers that disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle on December 5, 1945, after losing contact during a United States Navy overwater navigation training flight from Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale, Florida. All 14 airmen on the flight were lost, as well as all 13 crew members of a Martin PBM Mariner flying boat that subsequently launched from Naval Air Station Banana River to search for Flight 19. A report by Navy investigators concluded that flight leader Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor mistook small islands offshore for the Florida Keys after his compasses stopped working, resulting in the flight heading over open sea and away from land. Number 6. C-54A. The Douglas C-54 Skymaster is a 4-engine transport aircraft used by the United States Army Air Forces in WW II and the Korean conflict. Like the Douglas C-47 Skytrain derived from the DC-3, the C-54 Skymaster was derived from a civilian airliner, the Douglas DC-4. Besides transport of cargo, the C-54 also carried presidents, prime ministers, and military staff. On the 28th of March 1964, a C-54A disappeared over the Pacific on an executive passenger flight from Honolulu International Airport, Hawaii to Los Angeles International Airport, California. The pilot reported a fire in the second engine, which might make it necessary to ditch. Nothing more was heard from the aircraft, nor was any trace of it found despite an extensive search. 3 crew and 6 passengers were lost in the accident. Number 5. Star Ariel. Star Ariel was an Avro 2-door Mark IVB passenger aircraft owned and operated by British South American Airways, or BSAA, which disappeared without a trace over the Atlantic Ocean while on a flight between Bermuda and Kingston, Jamaica on the 17th of January 1949. The loss of the aircraft, along with that of BSAA Avro 2-door Star Tiger in January 1948, remains unsolved to this day, with the resulting speculation helping to develop the Bermuda Triangle legend. Number 4. The USS Pickering. USS Pickering was a topsail schooner in the United States Revenue Cutter Service, and then the United States Navy during the quasi-war with France. She was named for Timothy Pickering, then the Secretary of State. Pickering departed from Boston on the 10th of June 1800, ordered to join Commodore Thomas Truxton's squadron on the Guadalupe station in the West Indies. She sailed from Newcastle, Delaware on the 20th of August and was never heard from again. She is presumed to have been lost with all hands in a gale in September, but this was never proven. This storm is also thought to have sunk USS Insurgent, which likewise vanished without a trace. The exact cause of the cutter's disappearance remains a mystery. Number 3. The USS Wasp. On the 12th of September 1814, the Wasp encountered 3 brothers, a brig, and scuttled her. On 14th of September 1814, she sank the brig Bacchus. On the 21st of September 1814, an 8-gun brig Atalanta ran afoul of Wasp, and she too suffered the ignominy of capture. Deeming Atalanta too valuable to destroy, Blakely placed her under the command of midshipman David Geisinger and sent her to the United States. She entered Savannah, Georgia safely on the 4th of November 1814. After Wasp and Atalanta parted company, on the 9th of October 1814, she spoke the Swedish brig Adonis, bound from Rio de Janeiro to Falmouth, England, about 3 weeks after the Atalanta capture. Wasp reported that she was headed for the Caribbean. Wasp was never seen again. Number 2, the USS Cyclops. The ship put to sea from Rio de Janeiro on the 16th of February 1918 and entered Salvador on the 20th of February. 2 days later, she departed from Baltimore, Maryland with no stop scheduled, carrying the manganese ore. The ship was thought to be overloaded when she left Brazil, as her maximum capacity was 8,000 long tons, or 8,100 tons. Before leaving port, Commander Worley had submitted a report that the starboard engine had a cracked cylinder and was not operative. This report was confirmed by a survey board, which recommended, however, that the ship be returned to the United States. Cyclops then set out for Baltimore on the 4th of March, and was rumored to have been sighted on the 9th of March by the molasses tanker Amulco near Virginia, but this was denied by Amulco's captain. In any event, Cyclops never arrived in Baltimore and no wreckage of the ship has ever been found. Number 1, the Connemara 4. A pleasure yacht was found adrift in the Atlantic south of Bermuda on September 26, 1955. It is usually stated in the stories that the crew vanished while the yacht survived being at sea during 3 hurricanes. The 1955 Atlantic hurricane season shows Hurricane Ione passing nearby between 14th and 18th of September, with Bermuda being affected by winds of almost gale force. In his second book on the Bermuda Triangle, Weiner quoted from a letter he had received from Mr. J.E. Challenor of Barbados. On the morning of September 22nd, Connemara 4 was lying on a heavy mooring in the open roadstead of Carlisle Bay. Because of the approaching hurricane, the owner strengthened the mooring ropes and put out 2 additional anchors. There was little else he could do, as the exposed mooring was the only available anchorage. In Carlisle Bay, the sea in the wake of the Hurricane Janet was awe-inspiring and dangerous. The owner of Connemara 4 observed that she had disappeared. An investigation revealed that she had dragged her moorings and gone to sea.
Starting our list right, we have a time vortex. In 1970, Floridan pilot Bruce Jernon Jr., his father and friend were flying towards Bahimi Island in the Bahamas. They noticed a rather unusual crowd, to which he referred to as an electronic fog. This is where it gets weirder. When they entered the fog, it became dark very quickly, resulting in little visibility. They would notice these bright white flashes getting progressively worse as they went further in the tunnel of smoke. Navigational tools such as their compasses would begin to malfunction by spinning around rapidly, similar to that of Christopher Columbus when he was around the same area. They would come to the quick conclusion that they needed to escape this fog, but once they did, air traffic control towers detected them over the Miami beach, which would be physically impossible, as his last possible known location was in the Gulf Stream, which is over 100 miles away, which would mean he would have had to travel at nearly 2,000 miles per hour, which is not possible. In our number 9 spot, we have the Ellen Austin. The Ellen Austin was a 210-foot American multi-masted ship. In 1880, the ship was set for New York. However, weeks into its travel, it came across an unidentified ship drifting just north of the Bermuda Triangle. Since the unknown ship wasn't sailing, the captain of the ship ordered a crew to check out the mysterious vessel. When they had boarded, no one was to be found. No signs of violence, nor any signs of the ship's logs. They would attempt to bring the unknown ship back to New York, but would be interrupted by a fierce storm which separated the 2 ships. After a few days, the captain of the Ellen Austin would spot the ship drifting aimlessly again. They sailed towards the ship once again to find out the ship was empty, with no sign of the crew he had sent, no sign of struggle or distress. This ship was then marked as cursed to the crewmates, but the captain, being oblivious, would still want to seize the opportunity and order another group to sail it. As they set sail with both ships once again, the weather turned poor and separated the ships again, with the ghostly ship disappearing for good. Imagine sending out another group of men to sail this boat after the first group of men perished out of existence. Taking our number 8 spot, we have the Flight 19 mystery. In 1945, the United States sent a group of 5 torpedo bombers known as Flight 19 over the Bermuda Triangle for navigation training. As the bombers flew out over water, all 5 bomber planes would disappear, along with all 14 airmen. In one of the last radio messages received, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight commander, reported, "We are entering white water. Nothing seems right. We don't know where we are. The water is green, no, white." Some have speculated that aliens use the Bermuda Triangle as a portal to our planet, where they would capture humans along with our technology to conduct further research on our species. This could be one of the reasons for the disappearance of Flight 19, but we will never know if there's an interdimensional portal without going in it first. At number 7, we have the USS Cyclops ghost ship. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops, one of the Navy's biggest fuel ships, marks the largest loss of life in the history of the US Navy in a single incident. In March 1918, this massive ship set out to sail from Brazil to Baltimore through the Bermuda Triangle with about 309 crew members on board. Once they set off, no signs of issues were reported by the ship. However, the ship was never heard from again. An entire search of the area was put into action, but nothing was ever found. What was odd was that the captain of the USS Cyclops never sent out a distress signal. Ships and planes that traveled through the Bermuda Triangle have said they have spotted this large naval ship still sailing within. But every time they attempt to get closer or contact the ship, it would begin to vanish out of thin air. The USS Cyclops was a rather large ship, which makes this ghostly sighting eerie. At number 6, we have a government testing ground. It is believed by a few that the Bermuda Triangle is actually a testing ground for some governments that border the Atlantic Ocean. It's said to test their advanced technology ranging from underground nuclear bombs to specialized vehicle and weapons. It is said that the governments attempt to add this negative stigma towards the Bermuda Triangle for the sole purpose of keeping people away from their testing grounds. Secret government involvement could explain the disappearance and fairly odd phenomena that occur within the triangle. Right in the hump of our list, we have sea monsters. Could something be lurking in the depths of the triangle that could explain the disappearances? Well, there is a massive sea serpent said to roam in the Bermuda Triangle called the Bermuda Beast. The Bermuda Beast is described as a massive sea creature that is 4 times larger than the Eiffel Tower, making this the largest creature to ever exist if it was truly found. The Bermuda Beast could be the explanation for the missing ships and planes, since it is said to leap out of the water and snatch ship and planes. If that doesn't sound convincing, remember that only 5% of the oceans are discovered, which makes the ocean just as mysterious as the Bermuda Triangle. Who really knows what lies under? Enchanting our number 4 spot, we have the witchcraft. No, there are no witches on their little witch boats in the Bermuda Triangle. However, this story is just as odd. On December 22nd, 1967, a 23-foot luxury yacht named the Witchcraft left Miami with her captain Dan Burrock and his friend Father Patrick Horgan. The plan was to view the Christmas lights from the water, but after reaching a distance of only 1 mile off the coast, the Coast Guards would be notified that the ship had hit something. After reaching the yacht's last known location, it was nowhere to be found. The weird part was that the ship was theoretically unsinkable with an arsenal of life-saving devices ranging from lifeboats to flares. As well, Captain Dan Burrock was a cautious yachtsman, making the disappearance surprising to those who knew him. The yacht is reported by some ships to be drifting through the Devil's Triangle, but no one has wanted to sail close enough to figure out the true mystery of the witchcraft. At number 3 of our list, we have Mary Celeste. On the fateful day of December 5, 1872, Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor to carry cargo to Italy, but unfortunately, the ship never made it to the destination. After several search and rescue efforts, the ship was found adrift in Bermuda Triangle, but none of its crew of 11 people were found. Personal belongings, food containers, precious cargo, and lifeboats were still on the ship. As well, rotten food was found on board, and foul play was not detected throughout the whole ship. The boat was basically still seaworthy, for it had seemed that everyone just disappeared without a single piece of evidence, almost as if they all jumped off on the ship and just abandoned it. Since it had ended up in the Bermuda Triangle, it can be said that it has become a product of its curse. The famous Atlantis Atlantis takes our number 2 spot. The infamous sunken city is believed to be situated within the Bermuda Triangle. Atlantis was said to be surrounded by hundreds of thousands of crystals that radiated large amounts of energy. Their energy radiating from the crystals could explain the area's tendencies to disrupt communication systems, compasses, and even completely immobilize ships and planes. Then in 1968, scuba diver J. Manson Valentine discovered a series of laid stones at the bottom of the ocean that appeared as though they formed a road, also known as Bimini Road. Doing further investigation, sci-fi show Quest for Atlantis discovered a second layer beneath that road, which could be more promising evidence of a sunken city. Coming in at our number 1 spot, and don't be disappointed, but it all may just be in our head with no mystery at all. The theory of the Bermuda Triangle having no mystery is definitely something more believable. Scientist Carl Kruszelnicki said that everything could be explained by human error, bad weather, and heavy air and sea traffic. As well, the Bermuda Triangle is known as a high traffic area. Ships and planes go through this body of water every day at all times. And where there are people, there will be incidents. The area is known to be an active hurricane zone with a Gulf Stream running directly through it, making it a place of unpredictable weather. Or better yet, what if the cause for the disappearances was related to the negative stigma attached to the triangle? Basically, what if people went into the area with the preconceived thought that it was dangerous, which would then psych themselves out, causing them to do human error?
Number 10, the Devil's Sea, or the Dragon's Triangle. Off the coast of Japan lies the Devil's Sea, often referred to as the Dragon's Triangle, with a history of bizarre disappearances. Perhaps the most famous incident was the disappearance of the Japanese research vessel Kaio Maru No. 5 in 1952. The ship vanished without a distress call or any wreckage found. Some attribute these disappearances to magnetic anomalies caused by underwater volcanic activity or methane hydrate eruptions, which could cause ships to lose buoyancy and sink suddenly. While there are rational explanations for many incidents, the reputation of the Devil's Sea as a mysterious and potentially perilous place endures. Number 9, the underwater city of Dwarka. Off the coast of India, submerged ruins believed to be the ancient city of Dwarka have captured the imagination of historians and archaeologists alike. Legend has it that Dwarka was founded by Lord Krishna and later submerged by the sea. Excavations have revealed structures and artifacts that suggest a sophisticated ancient civilization, adding to the eerie aura of this underwater city. Exploring these ruins is both an archaeological adventure and a spiritual journey, as divers encounter submerged temples and remnants of a bygone era, shrouded in historical and religious mystique. Number 8, the Sargasso Sea. The Sargasso Sea, a region in the North Atlantic Ocean, is known for its vast mats of floating sargassum seaweed. Its eerie reputation is tied to the disorienting experience of sailing through a seemingly endless expanse of tangled seaweed. Historically, sailors feared becoming trapped in the Sargasso, where the calm, windless waters could lead to prolonged voyages and dwindling supplies. Tales of ghost ships and derelict vessels adrift in the Sargasso have added to its mystique, even though many of these stories have been debunked. Today, the Sargasso Sea remains a captivating and haunting part of the ocean's ecosystem. Number 7, Point Nemo. Point Nemo, located in the South Pacific Ocean, is a desolate and remote spot, farther from land than any other point on Earth. The eerie aspect of Point Nemo lies in its isolation and the overwhelming feeling of being utterly alone in the vastness of the ocean. How fun. For astronauts aboard the International Space Station, Point Nemo is the closest point on Earth, a fact that adds an unsettling layer to the isolation experienced by those who venture to this remote location on the planet's surface. Number 6, the Black Hole of Andros. The underwater cave system off the coast of Andros Island in the Bahamas is a labyrinth of pitch-black tunnels and chambers. Its eerie reputation comes from the daunting experience of navigating through narrow, winding passages filled with darkness. Divers who explore these caves are often overwhelmed by a sense of isolation and the fear of getting lost in the inky depths. The Black Hole of Andros is a challenging and eerie destination for experienced cave divers seeking both adventure and the thrill of exploring the unknown. Number 5, the USS Oriskany. The USS Oriskany, a decommissioned aircraft carrier, was intentionally sunk in 2006 off the coast of Florida to create an artificial reef. Diving around this colossal rusting hulk is eerie due to the juxtaposition of military history and marine life. The ship once played a vital role in the Vietnam conflict, and exploring its sunken remains can evoke a sense of reverence and eeriness as divers encounter the ghost of its past life amid the marine ecosystem that has since made it their home. Number 4. The Mary Celeste's shipwreck. The mystery of the Mary Celeste began in 1872 when the ship was found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean entirely deserted. The crew's disappearance remains one of the greatest unsolved maritime mysteries. The ship was fully seaworthy, with provisions and personal belongings left behind, but there were no signs of a struggle. The eerie tale of the Mary Celeste has spawned countless theories, including piracy, mutiny, and paranormal occurrences. The Mary Celeste remains an enduring maritime mystery, shrouded in speculation and unanswered questions. When the ship was found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean, its crew, including the captain's wife and daughter, had seemingly vanished into thin air. Despite conducting an extensive investigation, authorities could never definitively determine the fate of the crew. Number 3. The deep sea vents. Hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor are eerie and fascinating ecosystems. These vents release superheated water rich in minerals, creating unique habitats for extremophiles, such as tube worms and giant clams, that thrive in the extreme conditions. The eerie aspect of deep sea vents lies in the complete darkness, crushing pressure, and the otherworldly creatures that inhabit that realm. Discovering these vents is like exploring an alien world deep beneath the ocean's surface, where life has adapted to thrive in an environment that seems entirely inhospitable to humans. Number 2. The USS Indianapolis wreck. The USS Indianapolis was a US Navy cruiser that played a crucial role in WW2. However, it's best known for its tragic sinking in July 1945, shortly after delivering components for the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. After delivering its cargo, the ship was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine and quickly sank. What makes the USS Indianapolis wreck particularly eerie is the harrowing ordeal that followed. Due to a communication error, the sinking was not immediately reported, and the crew was left adrift in shark-infested waters for days. Many perished from exposure, thirst, and shark attacks. Only 317 of the ship's nearly 1,200 crew members survived, making it one of the deadliest shark attacks in history. Number 1. The Sagamore. A grandiose hotel on a private island overlooking Lake George sounds like the perfect place for some rest and relaxation, or eternal rest for some guests. At the gorgeous 19th century Victorian resort, stories of ghost sightings are mainly confined to the elegant restaurants, but the Sagamore's most notorious ghost is more likely to be found playing outdoors. About 70 years ago, a guy who sold lost golf balls back to pro shop customers was hit by a car during his search. If you listen very closely, you can still hear him giggling there. Number 10. Air France Flight 447. Air France Flight 447 from Rio de Janeiro to Paris crashed into the Atlantic 10 years ago, losing all 216 passengers and 12 crew members. The catastrophe took the lives of 3 Irish doctors, Jane Deasy of Rathgar, Co Dublin, Aisling Butler of Roscrea, Co Tipperary, and Aithne Walls of Ballygowan Co Down. The cause was unknown until black box flight data and voice recorders retrieved from the ocean's floor revealed that the aircraft's speed recorders had frozen during a storm. The hunt cost 31 million euros and lasted nearly 2 years. Number 9. Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571. On October 13, 1972, a Uruguayan Air Force plane carrying 40 passengers, including members of the Uruguay rugby team, and 5 crew members vanished while crossing the Andes. After everyone on board had been assumed deceased for 72 days, 16 survivors emerged alive. A 1993 film told the account of how hunger pushed them to devour the flesh of some of the deceased passengers. Number 8. Lady Be Good. On April 4th, 1943, a US Army Air Corps B-24D called Lady Be Good took part in a bombing attack on Italy. It was the mission's lone plane that did not return to its base in Libya. Officials believed the plane crashed into the Mediterranean Sea. A comprehensive search was conducted, but no trace of the plane or its crew was discovered. In 1958, an oil survey exploration group was taking overhead images of the Libyan desert when they noticed a plane. The plane had crashed, but it had been beautifully maintained in the desert environment. The corpses of 8 of the crew were discovered in the desert in 1960. Number 7. Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart, the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean in a plane in 1928, and subsequently the first woman to fly over the Atlantic in 1932, demonstrated to people all around the world how far women could travel. Her story ended tragically though, and mysteriously, in July 1937, when her plane, a twin-engine Lockheed Electra, disappeared near the international dateline in the Central Pacific Ocean. Although researchers and mystics speculate about the exact circumstances of her disappearance, such as the likelihood of her being stuck on an uninhabited island for years, nothing is known with absolute certainty. Number 6. Flying Tiger Flight 739. During the early phases of the Vietnam conflict, on its route from Guam to the Philippines, U.S. Army Flying Tiger Flight 739 vanished over the seemingly deep Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean. Members of a standard oil tanker in the region reported seeing a bright explosion in the sky about an hour after the jet's final transmission, which some investigators have linked to the crash. There were no distress calls received by any air traffic control centers, making it difficult to pinpoint when things began to go wrong for those on board. After an extensive search team of 1,300 people, 48 aircraft, and 8 surface vessels covering around 144,000 square miles proved completely ineffective, rumors about what had transpired spread through the United States. Theories ranged from reports that it was shot down unintentionally by the US government, who subsequently buried their tracks, to basic engine and communication failure. However, the underlying cause is unknown, and no one will ever know what happened. Number 5. Stendak. On August 2nd, 1947, a British South American Airways Lancastrian airliner went missing while completing the final leg of a connecting flight from Buenos Aires to Santiago. Investigators and air traffic control centers were both perplexed because the final contact received by a Chilean Air Force operator was the enigmatic message Stendak, which was long enough to be mistyped. However, fragments of wreckage began to appear in the Andes Mountains almost 50 years later. In the late 1990s and in 2000, different body parts from the flight's passengers were discovered, well preserved by glacial ice. Number 4. Flight 19 in the Bermuda Triangle. The most contentious plane disappearance occurred in early December 1945, when not 1, but 6 planes vanished and were never found. On that day, in average weather, 5 Avenger torpedo bombers, noted in the aviation community for their massive size, took off from their base in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for bombing practice in the Bermuda Triangle. Bad idea already. The 5 planes lost contact with the ground station after suffering compass problems, which are common in that area as well as the Chinese Sea. The base station could still monitor contacts between the plane's pilots, during which it was observed that they became disoriented as to their whereabouts, and determined that after the first jet ran out of fuel, all planes were going to crash into the sea. The Coast Guard and Navy quickly launched an aggressive rescue mission that covered 700,000 square kilometers in 5 days, during which another jet carrying 13 passengers vanished, never to be seen again. The only hint as to its destiny was a report from an ocean liner that was in the plane's alleged vicinity at the time, claiming to have seen a massive fireball in the sky. Number 3. Glenn Miller over the English Channel. Because the plane, which was flying from London to Paris, took off on a chilly, foggy day, and no other obvious conclusions could be formed, the official investigation of this missing jet concluded that it must have crashed into the English Channel due to iced over wings or engine issues. However, such unclear verdicts did not appease a grieving populace who had just lost one of the Allied powers' most powerful morale boosters. Naturally, rumors spread about what had actually occurred. Theories abound, ranging from the famous musician secretly landing only to pass away in a hospital from cancer days later, to the plane being accidentally bombed by friendly fire from English planes jettisoning bombs intended for an aborted mission, none of which have been satisfactorily verified. All that is certain is that the plane took off on its relatively brief journey on December 15th and never arrived at its planned destination. Number 2. British South American Airways Star Tiger. Star Tiger, a British South American Airways Avro two-door 4 plane, took off from the Azores archipelago on January 30th, 1948 to finish the final leg of a voyage from London to Bermuda. Prior to flight, it was discovered that the plane had experienced heater and compass problems. However, the plane proceeded on its way, trailing a Lancastrian plane that was on the watch for signs of stormy weather. So, in order to keep the plane warm, it flew extremely low at 2,000 feet, eliminating virtually any wiggle space if a problem arose. arose. Furthermore, the low altitude led the plane to consume fuel significantly faster than if it had been flying at a higher altitude. Ground control became concerned when the Lancastrian plane successfully landed, but was not immediately followed by the Star Tiger. Rescue crews searched without luck, and all 25 passengers and 6 crew members were never again heard from, leaving investigators to conclude that in connection to the whereabouts of the plane, it may be said that no more baffling problem has ever been presented. Number 1. British South American Airways Star Ariel. On January 17, 1949, over a year after the Star Tiger vanished, another British South American Airways jet traveling from Bermuda to Jamaica vanished totally. The Star Ariel made a regular communication to the ground station 1 hour after its departure, and then apparently ceased to exist at an altitude of 18,000 feet. A rescue crew was not able to begin its search for the plane until 7.5 hours later, by which time any remnants of the jet could have began their plunge to the ocean floor. Investigators were able to rule out 3 frequent theories at the time: the jet running out of fuel, which seemed highly unlikely at such a high altitude, any errors attributed to the pilot, and bad weather, because of the fact that the report mentioned clear skies in that location. Thus, British state authorities in charge of the investigation noted that some external cause may have overwhelmed both man and machine, thus inspiring a slew of theories based on simple supposition by the general public. Thanks for watching. Those were 10 airplanes that mysteriously went missing and were found years later. Leave a like and comment if you think we missed anything, and we hope you have a scary day.